a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Jon Jones. Jonathan Dwight Jones is an American mixed martial artist who is a two-time light heavyweight champion of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, having won the title in 2011, in addition to the interim title in 2016. Widely regarded as one of the greatest mixed martial artists of all time, Jones was ranked #1 in the world during his championship reign and currently has the longest active winning streak in the UFC. Jones won the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship in March 2011 at the age of 23, becoming the youngest champion in UFC history. He holds many UFC records in the light heavyweight division, including the most successful and consecutive title defenses, the most wins, the longest win streak and the most submission victories. For a number of years, he was ranked as the #1 light heavyweight fighter in the world by various media outlets as well as the #1 pound-for-pound MMA fighter in the world by multiple publications. Outside of the cage, Jones has been involved in several controversies and has lost his title each time as a result of disciplinary action. He was first stripped of his title and removed from the official rankings by the UFC in 2015 after he was arrested on felony hit-and-run charges. His subsequent returns to the UFC in 2016 and 2017 saw him emerge victorious in title bouts, but were both cut short by Jones testing positive for banned substances, and his rematch with Daniel Cormier was declared a no contest. Early career. Before beginning his MMA career, Jones was a standout high school wrestler and state champion at Union Endicott High School in upstate New York. He also played football as a defensive lineman, but due to his slight frame, his coach nicknamed him Bones. He won a national JUCO championship at Iowa Central Community College. After transferring to Morrisville State College to study criminal justice, he dropped out of college to begin his MMA career. Jones made his professional MMA debut in April 2008. He amassed an undefeated record of 6-0 over a period of 3 months, finishing all of his opponents. In July 2008, Jones accepted a fight in the UFC as a late replacement with only 2 weeks' notice. In his last bout before signing with the UFC, Jones defeated Moises Gabin at BCX 5 for the USCBA Light Heavyweight Championship. He won the fight via TKO in the second round. Ultimate Fighting Championship. Jon's UFC debut came against Andre Gusmao at UFC 87 on August 9, 2008. Jones took the fight on 2 weeks' notice as a late replacement for Thomas Stval. He put on an impressive performance, using takedowns and displaying unorthodox striking, such as spinning elbows and a spinning back kick. Jones took a unanimous decision victory. In his second fight, Jones fought veteran Stephan Bonnar at UFC 94 on January 31, 2009. Jones showed superior wrestling abilities and executed strong takedowns and powerful throws, including a suplex, again showing unorthodox striking as he had in his debut. Jones secured one of Bonnar's legs and landed a back elbow that nearly knocked out his opponent during the first round. Although he appeared to tire in the third round, Jones held on to win another unanimous decision victory. Jones's third fight was against Jacob Ryan at UFC 100 on July 11, 2009. Jones controlled the majority of the fight by stuffing takedown attempts from his opponent. Jones stayed on the outside, exercising his reach advantage and finding his range toward the end of the first round with his right jab and high and low kicks. Halfway through the second round, Jones ducked and spun to deliver another one of his signature back elbows that struck the top of O'Brien's head. Jones eventually secured a modified guillotine choke which rendered his opponent briefly unconscious just after he tapped. In September 2009, Jones was rewarded for his victories by signing a new 4-fight contract with the UFC. On December 5, 2009, Jones faced off against fellow light heavyweight prospect Matt Hamill at the Ultimate Fighter heavyweights finale. Despite dominating the fight, Jones was disqualified for the use of multiple 12-6 elbows. The unified rules of mixed martial arts prohibit downward elbow strikes, and Jones was initially only penalized a point from the round. However, because Hamill could not continue due to a dislocated shoulder, Jones was disqualified for these strikes. Consequently, The tape was reviewed and showed that Jones's elbows further damaged Hamill's already bloody and lacerated nose. This marked the first time that Nevada has used its recently enacted instant replay rule, in which the referee's decision was supported by the commission, which utilized a slow-motion replay to review the elbows. Jones fought Brandon Vera on March 21, 2010, at UFC Live, Vera vs. Jones. He won the fight by TKO caused by an elbow to Vera's face followed up with punches in the first round. The elbow delivered to stop the fight also broke Vera's face in 3 places. Jones also won the Knockout of the Night award. Jones defeated former IFL Light Heavyweight Champion Vladimir Matyushenko by TKO due to elbows in 1:52 of the first round on August 1, 2010, at UFC Live, Jones vs. Matyushenko. UFC President Dana White promised Jones a huge step up in the competition if he managed to defeat Matyushenko. Following the fight with Matyushenko, White said, "Vladimir Matyushenko is a guy who I have a lot of respect for and I didn't think it was going to happen that easy. Jones is the real deal and he just catapulted himself tonight into the top 8 in the world. Tonight solidified it. To go in and do what he did to Vladimir Matyushenko, and make it look as easy as he did tonight, it cements it for me. This kid is one of the top part in the world in that weight division. He's got to keep his head together, stay focused and keep doing all the right things in training. He's smart, good-looking and badass. He's going to make a lot of money. This kid is going to do very well." Right now in the 205-pound division, all these guys are fighting each other. When the smoke clears and the dust settles, Jon Jones will fight one of the top 8 guys in the world for his next fight. After defeating Matyushenko, Jones stated that he wanted a top 3 opponent for his next fight. Jones mentioned in an interview with Inside MMA that he would be facing the winner of Antonio Rogerio Nogueira vs. Ryan Bader. Reports that Jones had previously been offered a fight with Nogueira, but had turned down the opportunity, turned out to be false. In the Inside MMA interview, Jones also stated that he had been informed by Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta that if he finished his next 2 fights, he would likely receive a title shot. White soon confirmed that Jones would face undefeated Ultimate Fighter winner Ryan Bader on February 5, 2011, at UFC 126. Jones handed Bader his first professional loss by defeating him via tap-out due to a guillotine choke in the second round after dominating Bader in the first round. Jones was awarded the Submission of the Night bonus. It was revealed that title contender and Jones's training partner Rashad Evans had sustained a knee injury in training, and would not be able to compete in his scheduled match with UFC Light Heavyweight Champion Mauricio "Shogun" Rua. Jones was told by Joe Rogan right after his bout had ended that he would replace Evans in the fight for the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship. Light Heavyweight Championship. On March 19, 2011 at UFC 128, Jones defeated Rua by TKO at 2:37 of round 3 to become the youngest UFC champion ever. After an early flying knee that badly hurt the champion, Shogun was dominated throughout the 3 rounds. A body shot and knee to the head dropped the champion to his knees, causing the referee to swiftly step in and halt the bout. His first title defense was expected to be on August 6, 2011, at UFC 133 against Rashad Evans, his former friend and teammate, but Jones was sidelined with a hand injury. It was initially announced that the hand injury would require surgery, but Jones opted for rest and rehabilitation without surgery after further consultations with doctors. John's injury was originally thought to keep him out of action until late 2011, but he instead made his first title defense against Quinton Jackson on September 24, 2011, at UFC 135. Jones defeated Jackson via submission at 1:14 in the 4th round. In the process, he became the first UFC fighter to submit Jackson. Jones has described this as his favorite fight. Jones vs. Evans was in the works for a second time and a bout was targeted for December 10, 2011, at UFC 140. However, a lingering thumb injury cost another title opportunity for Evans, and Jones instead faced Lyoto Machida at the same event. Despite getting rocked in the first round by Machida, Jones successfully defended the light heavyweight title at UFC 140, stopping Machida. at 4:26 of the second round via technical submission, which caused Machida to collapse unconscious along the cage. This was the first submission loss in Machida's career. Jones defeated his arch-rival and former teammate Rashad Evans via unanimous decision on April 21, 2012, at UFC 145. During the UFC 145 post-fight press conference, Dana White confirmed that Jon's next opponent would be Dan Henderson. The Jones-Henderson fight was expected to take place at UFC 151, but an injured Henderson pulled out of the bout. Jones then refused a late replacement fight with Chael Sonnen after his coach Greg Jackson told him with 3 training days left it would be difficult to prepare. UFC 151 was then subsequently cancelled. It was later reported that Henderson was injured 3 weeks prior to the announcement, but kept the injury under wraps as he was still hoping to compete. However, he was ultimately forced to withdraw following a final sparring session to evaluate his condition. A rematch with Lyoto Machida was then announced for September 22, 2012, at UFC 152. Lyoto Machida, who was not contacted prior to the announcement, rejected the fight due to the lack of time to train before the bout. Jones instead defended the championship against Vitor Belfort on September 22, 2012, at UFC 152. Jones opened as a massive favorite coming into the bout. Despite almost being submitted via armbar in round 1, Jones successfully defended the belt against Belfort, and equaled Chuck Liddell's number of title defenses. Jones also won a $65,000 submission of the night bonus for his 4th-round finish of Belfort. Jones was chosen to coach opposite Chael Sonnen on Season 17 of The Ultimate Fighter, with a bout between the coaches taking place on April 27, 2013, at UFC 159. Jones displayed a lack of interest in the bout and actively downplayed the contest, making it clear that he did not believe Sonnen was a fit contender. In an interview, Sonnen did his best to drum up interest in the bout, but Jones gave him the silent treatment and refused to make eye contact. Jones made quick work of his challenger, finishing Sonnen via TKO in the first round. However, he dislocated a phalanx on his left foot during the fight. With the win, Jones tied Tito Ortiz for having most consecutive title defenses in UFC Light Heavyweight history. Consecutive title defenses record, Light Heavyweight Championship. Jones faced Alexander Gustafsson on September 21, 2013, at UFC 165. Jones was badly cut above the eye during the first round, but he continued and eventually won a back-and-forth fight via a controversial unanimous decision. After the match, Jones said Gustafsson gave him the toughest fight of his career and the champion and challenger were both sent to the hospital for the injuries. Both men suffered lacerations and facial swelling, though Jones's appeared to be worse for the wear. Both men were released from the hospital with no broken bones or serious injuries. The bout also earned both men the Fight of the Night bonus award. The match received numerous positive characterizations: an epic battle, instant classic, fight of the year, greatest light heavyweight title fight of all time, one of the greatest fights in UFC history. Jones was expected to face Glover Teixeira on February 1, 2014, at UFC 169. However, on October 7, UFC President Dana White stated the announcement for this fight on that card was premature and that Jones and Teixeira would face each other on a different card. On November 13, 2013, it was announced that Jones would fight Glover Teixeira at UFC 170, scheduled for February 22, 2014. However, the next day it was announced that the match had been scratched from the card. On December 4, 2013, it was announced that Jones and Teixeira would face each other at UFC 171 on March 15, 2014, in Dallas, Texas. However, the fight was moved again. Jones and Teixeira finally fought on April 26, 2014, at UFC 172. Jones won the bout via unanimous decision. On April 27, 2014, UFC President Dana White confirmed that a rematch with the champion Jon Jones would be next for Gustafsson, and stated the possibility of the match taking place in a stadium in Sweden on pay-per-view. On May 24, 2014, It was indicated that the rematch would take place in Las Vegas on August 30, 2014, at UFC 177. The statement, and the time and venue, wasn't official however, because Gustafsson was the only one who still had agreed to take the fight. On June 2, the fight was still on hold, and UFC President Dana White explained the situation as, Jones doesn't want to fight Gustafsson. Jones instead expressed his preference for fighting Daniel Cormier. On June 5, 2014, the UFC confirmed that the Jones/Gustafsson rematch would take place on September 27, 2014, at UFC 178. However, Gustafsson was forced to pull out of the bout due to a torn meniscus. Jones was then expected to face replacement Daniel Cormier at UFC 178. On August 12, 2014, it was announced that Jones had sustained a leg injury in training, forcing him out of UFC 178 in his scheduled fight against Cormier. The bout was rescheduled and eventually took place on January 3, 2015, at UFC 182. Jones won the fight by unanimous decision, losing only one round to Cormier. He also became the first person to take Cormier down, scoring 3 takedowns in total. The win also earned Jones his 4th Fight of the Night bonus award. It was later revealed that Jones failed a drug test 1 month prior to the event, as he tested positive for cocaine. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?